Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today it's my pleasure to have Bob Fraser on the show. Bob is CFO and Chief Macro Strategist for Aspen Funds, a fund sponsor in multiple asset classes, including private equity, commercial real estate, distressed debt, energy, and others. Bob is also a former magna cum laude USC Berkeley computer scientist, tech startup founder, and Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award winner. Bob, welcome to the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Dylan.
That was about half the bio. I said, I gotta look at this.
That's all the good stuff. Yeah, thanks for leaving out all the bad stuff.
Yeah, I mean, one of the more impressive that I've had on the show here. I said it's really an honor to have you here. You mentioned before hopping on here, you co-authored a book with John Maxwell.
Yeah, it's a book called Invest Like a Billionaire, and it's cracking the billionaire code. So the big boys, they invest differently from everyone else, and they make higher returns, and they take less risk doing it, and they pay less taxes. And so it's really unpacking the entire billionaire models, how they think, how they work, how they invest, and making it available to the little guy.
And so, I always like to start these podcasts off at the top, right? So you're in the private equity space. How did you get into the real estate space?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting. Yeah, you mentioned tech founder startup. Well, that didn't end well, right? I raised $44 million in venture capital, became this hyper growth business, 300 employees in Kansas City in the late 90s, and then the tech wreck happened and blew up. And then I started in professional investment business for a while, and did investments. I was super talented at kind of investing, and made great returns for 5 years. And then in 2008, the great financial crisis, lost everything again. And so the public markets, I just got so sick and tired of the public markets, right? They're intractable, they're extremely volatile, they're nonsensical, and I wanted something more controllable, right? Some of your listeners, you may buy flip a house. Well, it's very controllable, right? You can look at, here's what I'm going to pay for it, here's what I'm going to put into it, and here's what I'm going to sell it for. And it really doesn't matter what the stock market does it? If someone says the stock market is going up or down, or, it just doesn't really matter. You've got control. So that's what I finally said. I'm going to find something outside of the public markets that I can control, and started building private equity funds. And it's been off to the races ever since. And that's, by the way, is a lot of what the book is about. It's getting away from the public markets into things that are far less volatile and far more controllable.
Would you say that you have a lot of expertise in raising capital?
Oh, yeah.
So for someone who may be starting out, I was thinking about this myself the other day. I said, I've had so many guests on the show who've raised capital, specifically someone like yourself who may have gone from sort of the stock market area, raising capital from investors that type of way, to then moving and transitioning into real estate. And I think most people think about like bootstrapping and having to put all the capital up themselves. But actually, investors and people with money don't have economy of time the way that some other people may have. And so it's actually maybe more feasible than some people think to raise capital.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Other people's money, it's how I got started. And just bootstrapping, by yourself, it's not easy. But raising capital isn't easy either. No one's going to stroke you a $100,000 check, out of the blue. And those first checks are hard to get. At our stage now, we've been around for so long, and we've got such a long track record. It's very easy right now to raise capital. But it doesn't start that way. You've got to really focus on building a great product and a great track record and doing what you say and executing on it.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Let's talk about how Aspen has grown. I know you mentioned that you're getting into or doubling down on oil and gas before we hopped on here. Did it start there? I imagine that there was a different starting point.
Yeah, a different starting point. Well, we don't have kind of a standard playbook, okay? We're data-driven investors. So we look first, where should money be placed, right? I remember sitting in 2009 in my desk and watching Miami beachfront condos selling for $35,000 a pop. And at the time I didn't have two shekels to rub together, having, just fresh off these big losses. And those are the kind of deals we want to find. What are the deals that just, are screaming by me, right now? And no one could sell those dumb things, right? What was the deal? Well, we got started in distressed debt. We bought defaulted mortgages at a time when they were selling for pennies on the dollar. And guess what? We made a ton of money. We figured it out. We cracked the code. We didn't know, we really didn't know how to model them. And we didn't know anything. We started a beta test fund, and I had enough credibility with a handful of investors to convince them to just throw money at me, even though I couldn't really build a model for them. I had no idea what the legal costs were going to be. I had no idea what the timelines were going to be. I had no idea what the returns were going to be. We had no data. But we did a beta test, and then we had the data, and then we went and became one of the largest distressed debt buyers in the United States.
Distressed debt. For myself, a fair degree of ignorance on this. I think of like notes.
Yeah.
Is this what you're doing? You're basically buying, people
buying notes that aren't being paid.
Yeah.
So yeah, we buy a defaulted second mortgage, $100,000 second mortgage behind a $275,000 first mortgage on a house that's worth $300,000. Okay, and we paid $6,000 for this $100,000 note.
So then you have to go through the process of for lack of a better word, like litigating this, right?
Yeah, you work it out. And we had 7 exit strategies we developed and a huge amount of financial kind of metrics because there's a lot of calculus that needs to go. It's like 4D chess, right? To figure out how to actually fix this. And we trained up, we built some incredible models and trained up whole crop of asset managers to be experts in doing this and just minted money for a while. But like all things, well, that's dead now. I mean, you can't buy these notes anymore. And so like all things, right? It's a good thing for a while, then it's not a good thing anymore. And so you always have to find what is the next thing.
That's
right?
the hallmark.
There's nothing that just works forever, right? Nothing.
No. That's the hallmark of a real estate operator I've seen. People who did real estate in the early 2000s and are still here today involved in real estate in some capacity, there's just no way, there's no possible way that they did the same thing for the whole
Right.
time. And they've had to pivot, and they've had to pivot probably multiple times. And, you talking about second position, distressed debt, super
Right.
niche down, right? And then having to pivot out of that, having to learn, like oil and gas and second position, distressed debt could probably not be more
They
different.
don't have much in common. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, what they do have in common is financial underwriting. That's where we're very, very good, right? As financial underwriters, we're very good macro strategists. So we figure out what is the long game, number one. Then what is the strategies, the ways to deploy capital that we can make for sure money on and take very little risk and make good returns, right? Where are the places? And my research led me, a few years back, 4 or 5 years ago, to look at fossil fuels. And fossil fuels is one of the most hated asset classes. It's massively underpriced right now and incredibly necessary. And people are shocked when I show them a chart that last year we were 81% fossil fuel usage across the United States energy usage. 81%. That's after 50 years of going green.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
And 91% in transportation. There's no electric airplanes. You're not going to go fly for 18 hours to Australia in an electric airplane, okay, ever. There's just not enough power. The batteries don't have enough power density. And so there's an issue. And anyhow, so I saw this massive underpricing, and so best investment ever last year, earning north of 30% returns unlevered.
And so
it's insane.
With Aspen buying wells?
Yeah, we're buying oil fields. Yeah, and we're doing what's called non-op working interests. So non-operated means we're not the operators. These are operated by, public operators. Devon, Marathon, Continental, the big guys, the $1 billion guys who this is all they do and they're experts at it. And we're by participations. So we own the land. We buy the land positions and then we own a part of the wells. And so we own, in this latest acquisition we had last year, 180 wells. We own about 5% of 180 wells. These are very, very, very large wells. And we don't operate it. And, 35% returns, cash flowing at nearly 20% cash flow. I mean, it's insane.
When you're looking at these deals, what's the risk in them? Because you're mentioning right now it's undervalued, right? So you saw the opportunity. Of course, you have to have the capital to deploy here. But when you're underwriting these deals, what's the risk?
Well, that's what you have to determine in your underwrite. And there's 100 different strategies that all have different risks. Well, the strategy we're using is we're buying what's called PUDs, PDPs. So proven, developed, producing, which means the well has already been drilled. It is already producing, and all you're doing is just cashing the checks. Okay, there's very little risk there except commodity price risk. It's what you're having now. Or what if oil prices go down to nothing, right? And I'm happy to take that risk. And in fact, we hedge. We take commodity. We do some commodity price hedging, so that if it goes down, we don't care because we've pre-sold some of the production, enough of the production to keep where the costs are being paid. So we've hedged that risk. So honestly, there's very little risk. Now, if you're drilling, you've got geologic risk, you've got engineering risk, and you've got operator risk, right? So you've got a lot more risks. The way we're buying it, we've got very little risk.
Now, when I think about I've known two real estate investors who've gone from single-family, multifamily, commercial to oil and gas. And they've said, it's a totally different world, different world. And once you think you're in the biggest room that you could be in, there's a room that's like 5 times this size.
So true.
Of you. And so I'm curious, you've now participated in what I would say are 3 very unique areas from, publicly traded markets to real estate investing, single family and second position distressed liens, to now oil and gas. In each pivot, how did you move into the new arena? Where did you have connections previously? Did you have to find new connections? How did this transpire?
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, and the oil and gas one is a bit of a reach. Some of our pivots are natural. We're doing a lot of large industrial development, big box industrial development. We're doing a lot of multifamily. Those things are very easy for us, very natural. We had expertise in house. Now the oil and gas, even though one of our partners is an oil and gas engineer, we were not deep enough, did not have a deep enough bench to do that. So we found a guy who was a firm in town who had 40-year track record of managing oil and gas assets for private equity. And they're an engineering and geology firm. Like I said, I've been doing it for 40 years and have never made less than a 30% return. So we partnered with them and convinced them that we were worthy of partnering, and it was a great match. So I think either you solve the problem. It's like, if you don't have the bench yourself, well, go partner with someone who does. And if you have the bench or just need a little bit of training, then go get that. So it's really whatever is the best way. But I'm not afraid to build new partnerships. Their partnerships are risky and expensive and time consuming. Yeah. But when you find good ones, boy, do they pay dividends. I'm one of 4 partners in Aspen, and it's absolutely wonderful because every partner brings their own expertise. It's just awesome to partner, but it's also horrible to partner, when you get the wrong partner. So, it's just the message is, don't be afraid to partner, but boy, do your due diligence, do it right. Make sure there's no red flags, and
then that'll be a good partnership. I'm hearing partnerships, I'm hearing underwriting, and I'm hearing capital raising as really some of the major keys to your success and to Aspen's success.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I think about these areas and the ability for people to pivot and scale, there's also the aspect of managing teams. But you've had to manage teams now, maybe in a different capacity, right? Because you're going from second position liens to oil and gas, where you're not operating the oil field. So how does managing teams work when you're doing different types of investing?
Yeah, and a lot of it's definitely a challenge. One of the things we've not done is gone highly vertical, meaning we get a soup to nuts kind of staffing. And if we're going to do multifamily, not only will we buy it and raise the capital for it, but we'll also do the property management, do the construction, and all that. We've chosen not to do those things. Now, in the notes, we actually did go fairly vertical, and it's a problem that once everything slows down, and that's what you have. But then a lot of those things, there's crossover. For example, in underwriting and deal selection, those are very, very similar kinds of deals. There's a lot of crossover in asset management and in back office.
I want to pivot a bit here, Bob, and talk about computer science and where we're at right now. So I can imagine that although you might not, be using this day to day, that it definitely colors your perspective of the world and gives you some unique vantage points. Specifically in the real estate space, I'm a newly licensed realtor. I can't imagine another field. Maybe I'm sure they're out there, but it seems like everybody who's doing high level things in real estate is trying to get every advantage they possibly can using calendar booking tools and AI and different tools that'll basically automate everything that they possibly do. And I've done other things before I sold real estate, and I think real estate's on right about the cutting edge of all of this as far as use cases of it. I'm curious, no one's got a crystal ball, but what do you make of all of this?
Yeah, yeah, I've got a lot of friends that are busy building kind of marketing related businesses, and my daughter, who ran a marketing agency, she did to me the other day, said, "Dad, nothing I do is relevant anymore." My whole business. It's like it's such a crazy world, and we've kind of gone the other way. I mean, at Aspen, we have almost 1,000 accredited investors, and we answer the phone. You remember a phone? What phones are? we answer that thing, and we talk to people. We have a human that's this person with flesh and blood and with a voice and a personality, and we have humans who talk to humans. And you know what? People love that. They love that. We do a damn good job with our reporting. We play our cards face up. People want that. People want the human touch. So we're kind of going the opposite way. Now we embrace automation. We embrace technology. I'm a computer scientist by background. So, all of our stuff is automated and these kind of things too. Our systems, our back offices. But yeah, I think let's not forget that what people really want, they want a connection. They want a human connection. Yeah. And the truth is, if you invest everything in marketing, I know guys that are dying right now because all of a sudden their ads aren't working anymore. And don't bank on that. Do business the old-fashioned way, which is meet people, meet great people, be a great person, do great things, do what you say, and they'll come back to you, right?
Are you still involved at all with the other asset classes, or is oil and gas
Yeah, we're doing all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, we're.
So currently, I'm based in Texas right now. We like to think, maybe selfishly, that we're the best single-family market in the country.
Used to be.
But you're looking at it. I'm curious. You're the person to ask. Where do you think is the best place for maybe a mom-and-pop investor or someone who's got a W-2 job and they're looking at doing single-family home investing? What's the best metro in the country to be investing in?
Yeah, definitely Kansas City, Midwest, Rust Belt. Right now, you're seeing rent growth. In the Dallas market, Sunbelt markets, you're seeing zero rent growth, or maybe a couple percent. Huge vacancies. There's been oversupply. The Midwest has never been oversupplied, and Rust Belt states. So, as usual, it's the unsexy places that have the best numbers a lot of times. And so avoid the sexy and look at the unsexy and run the numbers. Be a financial investor, But it is always better too to do something closer to home.
It is a lot easier.
Yeah.
You got to then find contractors. You got to do this remotely,
right.
And that's a logistical issue for a smaller.
Yeah, I tell people to go passive unless, if you really want to go active, then go active. But you're buying yourself a job, make no joke.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. And, I made a mistake of trying to be a real estate investor. Passive real estate investor when I was the guy that bought it, owned it, and managed it. It's like,
yeah, that's not passive.
It was not a good recipe. I'm not a good real estate owner. I'm a good fund manager, and so I'm going to stick to my day job and let other people manage the stuff that I just never paid attention to.
One final thing before we wrap. I've had multiple guests on the show, more than a handful, who are involved in syndications, fractional real estate investing, and even like fractional flipping. Multiple people come together and flip homes. I'm curious, what do you make of that? And would you, when you're looking at these deals, are you thinking this is a really great opportunity for people to get involved in real estate who otherwise might not be able to? Or are you thinking that's a lot of risk for someone to put in when you don't really know what's going on?
Yeah, I'd probably be more towards the latter, unless you know who has got what, right? Who's doing what, and have they done it before, and are they going to do it, or are they going to drop the ball? And so many of the times, we end up disappointed, right? And so I just be careful with a lot of those things. And unless you really know people, and I've invested in people that were unproven before, but they were people that I knew something about them. I said, all this guy needs is a shot. And I knew that that's all they needed. And I was really disappointed with these guys. On the other hand, I've invested with people that I thought, boy, they sure look good, smell good, feel good. And they dropped the ball, and, So, remember, it's just, there's a lot of risk, and it's better to go up market, get a little more professional type managers, professional sponsors, in my opinion, to get people that they've done this for a long time. They're good at what they do and they know how to do it. And they're not going to disappoint you. Maybe you won't make exactly the returns you thought, but you're not going to lose money. And the most important thing is don't lose money, right? First rule of investing, Warren Buffett, is don't lose money. Second rule is remember rule number 1.
That's it. That's simple as that. Bob, where can folks go if they want to learn more about Aspen?
Yeah, Aspen Funds, funds.us. And if you'd like to get a pre-order of my book, super excited about this book, it's thebillionairebook.org.
Bob, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's an honor to have you here.
Pleasure to be here with you, Dylan.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.